So it's March 2022. Here we are at the Alexander Stadium. This is the venue for the opening and closing ceremonies and the athletics. Some of the most iconic scenes of the Commonwealth Games will take place at this venue. So we're providing the overlay package here to turn this into what will be a Games-ready venue.
Overlay is the technical term that we use in the events industry for all the temporary facilities that are provided at an event.
Overlay is the nuts and bolts of an event. So it tends not to be the fluffy side of things.
It's a very complex process. It includes a vast number of commodities, timescales, schedules.
It's things like trackway, cabins, tents.
From a toilet to water to waste to carpentry, that is overlay.
Overlay specifically unlocks and demonstrates what can be achieved and what can be done for future events.
Really is a huge amount of work coming together in a very short period of time.
So if you take a venue and turn it upside down and give it a shake, anything that would fall out would be temporary overlay.
So the role of overlay here is basically to bring in equipment that makes the venue bigger, better. It's about enhancing what's already here. The Northern Plaza Grandstand, one of two grandstands that we're building here at the Alexander Stadium. So we're building 14,000 seats. That's a lot of seats. There's a video board going either side and a lighting tower in the centre. So we've been through a huge amount of planning to get to where we are today. As you can see, this is where the real hard work begins.
As a project, Birmingham 2022 is absolutely vast.
The scale of the project is extremely large. It's a huge international multi-sport games project.
There is a huge requirement during big games for equipment, for space, for seating, for lighting, and GL provided all of that here in Birmingham.
As overlay deliverers and principal contractors, we're delivering at 12 sites, and there is huge variety within that.
Every venue really presented its own set of unique challenges and constraints.
In terms of overlay, it's just huge, particularly the greenfield sites where there's literally nothing. Everything is brought in for that event to happen.
These games have been very unique and unprecedented in terms of the challenges that we've collectively faced.
It was the perfect storm for events. We've come out of the pandemic, the global pandemic. The industry boomed.
Inflation, materials going up, labour issues.
Extreme conditions in terms of the weather.
The resource of people to deliver the games and getting them in time.
Heat waves, hottest day on record in July.
Shortages in suppliers.
Increase in transport costs, fuel increases.
Shortages in materials.
Fixed budget to deliver a new model against an immovable deadline.
Every city appoints an organising committee, the OC. Those individuals that make up that OC will have processes and policies to deliver those games within budget, safely and on time.
Venue planning really starts in the very early stages of the host city bid across the different greenfield and brownfield sites. There's an awful lot of venue owner, town planning considerations and constraints, whether it be heritage sites, sites of specific scientific interest, noise restrictions, city centre sites where we have to be very cognizant of managing traffic. From an overlay perspective and the supplementary infrastructure, our aim is to really unlock the potential of the various sites.
So historically, when we've worked as an overlay supplier on projects around the world, we have been a contractor. We've been there to deliver the actual overlay.
Previous editions of the Commonwealth Games have utilised and adopted a commodity-based procurement approach, whereby the Organising Committee goes out and procures various different commodity types and also seeks a developer-type organisation to come in and act as principal contractor and integrator for the delivery model.
Working in collaboration with the OC here in Birmingham, we've come up with a new solution whereby we've taken on the role of principal designer and principal contractor to really integrate that whole process and make it much easier for the OC to deliver a project of this scale.
It's actually the first time that a Commonwealth Games has ever combined the roles of principal contractor and overlay.
For us, it was very much about streamlining and efficiencies. The model provides a single point of contact and a one-stop shop for all of the Organising Committee's needs.
So as principal contractor, we've had to consider all the safety of all the sites, the security of all the sites, the welfare for our staff and anyone building and working on the event. And so we've had to design that and take control of that and manage that whole process. So it's a fully integrated solution for the OC.
From the Organising Committee's perspective, we benefited from the extensive supply chain and network within the market that GL have when it comes to the procurement of subcontractors and various different commodities within the supply chain.
On a project of this scale and size, collaboration is always really key, and particularly when you have a role as significant as the principal contractor.
The planning stage is really about sucking that information from all the stakeholders involved, whether that be sport, media, look and feel. It's about getting that information in, and then the planning can start.
We've worked in partnership and very collaboratively with the Organising Committee to develop our designs, to work on value engineering schemes, which have in essence allowed us to show our experience and give them our advice.
The principal designer element, GL Events were responsible for all overlay. A lot of projects I've worked on in the past, we're mainly working on the temporary structures. For me on this project, temporary structures was such a small part of it. As principal designer, as the main overlay supplier, we're responsible for everything. But from a design perspective, it starts at tender stage, really. I mean, there's some meetings before tender stage. We get a spec from the Organising Committee. We visualised Smithfield as an example. We wanted to showcase the temporary seating there, 2 large field of plays with stadiums around it. We draw everything in 3D. We have the site, we have all the dimensions. We know what they want in them areas. We know what broadcasts want, the requirements. And we put that all together and visualise it, even with the signage, what our vision of the signage might be. As a design perspective, that helps to showcase what GL Events can do. Along with that, we also look at all the other elements, producing individual drawings and examples of our structures, maybe some scaffold pieces, how we're going to solve the solutions that we need to solve for this project. But ultimately, we are putting together what we think we can deliver for the Commonwealth Games.
As the principal designer, we've had to really look at the ways that the site works operationally and from a safety perspective as well. So Paul and the team have done a fantastic job of actually developing the designs from concept, into as-built drawings and actually what we went to site with.
So Smithfield, a brownfield site in the centre of Birmingham.
It was a blank canvas for us to come into. Brownfield site in the centre of Birmingham.
It really represented a massive opportunity, a large expanse of site, great transport links, fantastic backdrop in the city.
It used to be the old Smithfield market, and the whole place has been levelled.
Smithfield was the venue for beach volleyball and 3x3 basketball.
The transformation of that venue, I think, for me, is one of the most impressive transformations from what it was when we did the first site visit to what it actually ended up looking like. Probably the biggest transformation, I think.
Alexander Stadium, as an existing venue, work has gone into it to upgrade it. We've got the existing facilities. Absolutely everything had to be brought into Smithfield. There was no facilities there whatsoever.
Setting out's important. We've got to a stage with the master plans, with our designs, where we're happy with the location of all of the items on our plans, all the structures, all of the grandstands. The key thing next week is the feet are getting dropped for the roof, which is this. We then need to mark this out on the site. It's a very large site, so we need to make sure we're putting things in the right place. We need to verify these setting out points.
Okay, which are these bits here?
Yeah. And off
this wall.
It is critical we get everything correct. Once you've built a grandstand, it's very difficult to pick it up and move it if it's in the wrong place. And there's some critical measurements, particularly with field of play. The right-hand side
to the wall
is 21.14. We had guys come in with GPS and they went onto site, marked out points with spray paint. It's a really important part of the process. Before anything's in, we can walk the site. We can get a feel for the space. It's great seeing it on a plan and we've got scale rules. Nothing beats actually being on the ground and getting a sense of the space. Is this going to work? Is it big enough?
We took the site, we cleared as much as we could the surface and put a new surface treatment on there to give us a starting point to build up the two big arenas.
It was approximately 45,000 square metres of tarmac surfacing we had to install, which is a vast area. There was a planning requirement which stipulated that we couldn't excavate below 100 mil, so we had to carefully pecker out all of the concrete upstands in order to apply the tarmac.
You know, it was difficult to imagine how that was going to transform. It was a big feat.
This morning we're at Sutton Park. This is the triathlon venue for the Commonwealth Games. So Sutton Park is a site of special scientific importance, which basically means it's a protected site.
As a previous triathlete, was probably one of my favourite sites to see transform. You know, we had to basically be really sensitive to the environment that we were working in at Sutton Park. It's got a big focus from the local authority, from the parks team, you know, the rangers and stuff. They were closely watching what we were doing on that venue.
We can't stake into the ground, we have to protect the ground at all times, which basically means all of the commodities have to float. We can't damage the ground, and we have to basically return the ground to exactly as it was before we arrived.
You're screwing.
Oh, no! Oh yeah, you're right.
So as part of our overlay delivery here, we are building a huge scaffold platform. Which will transition from a ramp up onto the transition area and then a ramp down into the car park for the athletes to come onto, change, and then off around the course.
That platform is a huge piece of infrastructure. It was massive, creating a huge level platform for running, to cycling, to swimming, not in that order. I'm sure I've got that order wrong.
Behind me is Powell's Pool. This is where the swimming leg's going to take place with the triathlon. So I wouldn't fancy swimming in there myself at this time of year, but when it comes to July, hopefully it should be nice and warm.
Obviously with triathlon, there's a large body of water involved for them to swim. Naturally, where you've got a lake or that large body of water, the ground tends to slope down towards that water. So that was a big challenge for us. We're basically building on a hill.
1, 2, 6. Just over 100 mil difference, which is about right.
It's a challenging site to work on because of the nature of where it is. You know, it's in a historic park. It's in a very busy area of Sutton. It's challenging.
The strongest wind gusts ever recorded in England have caused widespread damage and claimed 8 lives across northern Europe.
With record speeds of up to 122 miles per hour, much of Britain felt the force of Eunice's temper.
The storms that we were having early on in Alexander Stadium probably cost us at least about 3 weeks on site.
We lost a lot of time due to inclement weather. On a site where we're putting in, quite tall structures, obviously safety is paramount.
So the lighting towers, the video boards, all the high-level equipment that was being installed by other contractors, they couldn't work because of the high winds and the gale forces and all of that, which then delayed them, so the knock-on effect was to delay us. It puts pressure on everybody, really. We have to deal with the knock-on effects of that, try to maximise everything to get back on track, which we did.
So yeah, there's some quite significant challenges around there because there's pavements, there's trees, landscaping, all that sort of stuff, which we've got to negotiate with that very, very large cable bridge.
So the North Plaza, the groundworks there and the floor you have to build from is tarmac and concrete and relatively level. But the South Plaza, after the concrete concourse, actually falls 8 metres down a steep grass bank.
Specifically on the south stand, the existing topography of the site had a large bank where we had to build a seating structure on foundations going down that bank.
There was a lot of debate as to whether if we kind of excavated into it, it would weaken the slope and we wouldn't be able to boom off it for the stand itself.
We had to work with the OC and the main contractor from the stadium to come up with an idea of concrete pad foundations to support the grandstand.
So to set out the seating structure on such a wide area with small foundations was extremely complex.
We had something like 420 separate concrete pads installed in the bank.
Requirements for a project of this scale will not be known about from day one. They can be assessed, they can be estimated. That is done by very experienced people, so they can say, yes, this is what we're going to need. But they will never think of absolutely everything. So your supply chain needs to be able to flex in a very agile fashion.
On a project of this scale and size, collaboration is always really key, and particularly when you have a role as significant as the principal contractor. We have worked with very strong collaboration, both with the OC and with all of our supply chain. Really brings out the best in the project.
The coordination of all of our assets going into a venue is massive. Physically get kit from its base onto a venue has been a massive task.
Clearly, if your normal business turns over X amount of money, and then all of a sudden 1 year you're doing the Commonwealth Games, the impact on your business is huge. We're still doing all the other things we do as a business.
We've worked on a very, very detailed schedule.
The level of detail in delivering a multi-sport event is quite phenomenal. Every single element of the project planning and the project delivery has to be right.
You have to understand the requirements, all the requirements that need to come together to understand actually what we've got to deliver.
We inducted 8,000 people, of our own people, into these games. There's something like 100,000 man days of work.
It is a massive effort on all of the team's part. The other element of this project involved us dry hiring 26,000 seats from our colleagues in France.
So that's been really closely coordinated with our international teams and our UK teams. The ports have been extremely busy due to Brexit.
We had to bring 90 trucks in before installation time because we were restricted to so many trucks per day.
From tender pitch all the way through to the final truck rolling out, we've coordinated that and made it happen very successfully.
Within the event industry, particularly this year, post-Brexit and post-COVID, we've lost about a third of the number of people that work in the events industry, and that had a real impact on delivering into the NEC. It's never going to be smooth. That's why people work in events, because the fun is solving the problems, not watching it all go seamlessly.
A Met Office red alert for the first time ever.
Temperatures are expected to touch nearly 40 degrees in parts of England early this week.
This is certainly not a record to celebrate.
In real-world terms, a risk to health services, risk to infrastructure, risk to life.
It's Monday, the 18th of July. And we're at the NEC. It's a month today since we got in. And everyone's working really hard. There's a lot going on.
The NEC was a challenge in its own right. It seemed relatively simple on paper, but the reality was quite different.
So as principal contractor on the venue, we have a legal obligation to administer CDM regulations. So we have to make sure that the working environment is safe for our employees and our operatives. One of those considerations that we've had to take into place is the heat and this heat wave that's coming up. So we had to structure the day, so we worked in the morning, had a break during midday, and then we went back and worked overnight, ensuring our suppliers were safe and working correctly. We're also making sure there's more water on site and more welfare facilities, so everyone's safe and everyone can get home safely.
At the NEC, there was a very wide footprint, so we delivered into 7 halls: table tennis, badminton, para-table tennis, boxing, weightlifting, powerlifting, netball. I always forget about netball. It was one of the best sports in the games. But we also assisted in creating an international broadcast centre, a vehicle screening area, and then a live site on the footprint of the precinct.
We're obviously trying to deliver a huge project, multiple venues within one venue, from a wide range of different teams.
So this is the badminton show court. We're doing a lot of work in here. We've got 4 stands, all at different levels of completion. A lot of activity going on, and you can hear behind me, which is largely related to seating. So sorry for the noise. A lot of activity, there's a lot of people working, and our safety team is highly engaged at the NEC.
You've got so many people on site, people delivering different parts of the project at different times. There's big health and safety issues that you need to consider with regard to that, and there's different working practices. It's people understanding how their part of the role fits in the bigger jigsaw.
The complexities with the NEC were the seating structures. Because we had the seating system imported from France, it was a system that we weren't very familiar with, which resulted in us procuring Spanish scaffolders to put the work together. It constrained the programme, which meant we had to do longer working hours, and yeah, it was quite difficult.
We put in 19,500 seats into the NEC, so that's a big deliverable. Vital that you schedule properly, that you sequence properly. As soon as a primary commodity has a delay, then that has a knock-on effect on the secondary one, a tertiary one, and so on and so forth. We have 10 days. It can't fail, and it won't fail.
And that was quite a stressful job. Building it was nerve-wracking, but thankfully everything tied in, and it looked absolutely fantastic on camera.
At the beginning of the tender process, Birmingham 2022 OC set out their social value charter front and centre.
Every major event like this leaves behind an imprint of economic or social or environmental impact. It's really important to make a conscious choice that people we choose as our suppliers, the people we choose as our sponsors to take this event on, step up with us to think about how the locals can benefit from a games like this.
Corporate social responsibility for me is all about context. We need to be aware of the social context and the environmental context that we live and work in and that we deliver projects in. So the themes of the social value charter that we have focused in on are local benefit, health and well-being, inclusivity and sustainability. So we have developed objectives and commitments that run really across all of those 4 themes.
GL are a brilliant example. They have really embraced this idea of a social value network or a partnership that can be created, not just that initial partnership, but also going a lot further.
Our partnership with GL Events has been absolutely amazing. I think in many ways GL have been a model corporate partner for Jericho. They spent the time to get alongside us, to get to know us as a charity, to get to know what we needed. And the way they supported us really helped us scale up and improve our social impact.
To work together, to collaborate, is absolutely been phenomenal. GL Events have come and volunteered for us, and they've done jobs on the towpath, planting, helping us improve the environment, helping the communities around those areas. And what has been so great is to see the feedback that we started to see after a couple of days. It has really been an eye-opener.
I think social value is quite infectious once you start working on it and other people start to see who you're working with and what you're doing, and they want to be involved as well, and it's really great to see that. and to see the momentum and to end up being able to exceed the commitments that you'd originally put down. It's a really nice feeling.
This is the first time that a Commonwealth Games has used a social value charter as part of its procurement. And I think that we will now be a blueprint for future events. I think that when people see the value that we have created just by asking, I think more people will join us.
The social value packages that we've put together has been a huge part of what we've done. Yeah, I think it's something that we should always do on a major project and have that impact on the city.
Touching people's lives in that way through a social value programme is fundamental to how games should be delivered going forward. The improvement in life should be long-lasting, not for 8 days of sport.
When you first realised you'd done it, how did it make you feel?
I don't know that you ever actually feel like you've done it, actually. You've got to take the time to say, I am part of this, and go and watch a bit of sport and go and see something and appreciate everybody watching it.
It's a relief to see it finalised and to see everything delivered on time. It's made so many people happy. It's just such a showcase of what GL events can do.
When we have handed over individual venues, there has been a sense of professional satisfaction at a job well done. The emotional payoff really comes when you see a venue come to life during the live event.
So how does it feel to have delivered on a scale like this?
Like that. I feel very proud. I think is for me is probably the key word that I've taken from this. So yeah, I'm proud of what we've achieved. Going to the Alexander Stadium and seeing it full of people and hearing the noise. The noise was just incredible. That for me was the defining factor. Is like we've achieved this. We've built venues.
We started building this in January. January of this year we started building it. And, we're now in August. To see the journey that we've come through to build this site from a construction site really into what it is today it's great.
With all the challenges that we faced, I don't think we could have delivered it any better.
The team have worked enormously hard during the last few months to deliver this event, and it's been a great achievement.
Seeing all the people sitting in our grandstands really sort of fills me with some pride that, me and my team have done that, GL Events have done that, and we made a blinking good job of it.
Walking through, seeing what we've drawn, what we've talked about, what we've discussed for the last 12 months, seeing it brought to life with all them people enjoying it, and that atmosphere gives me a great sense of pride.
See it all come together and it runs so smoothly and everybody enjoying themselves, all the cheering in the stand, it's just awesome. To have a major event on our doorstep and to be a major part of that and see it come to fruition and go through that design stage, that means an awful lot to me.
It's an extraordinary set of individuals that have come together to make an extraordinary team. I guess when you put together a big overlay project, what you are aiming to do is create a stage in which everyone can gather together. Athletes come together, spectators come together, the working teams come together. What we do is provide the infrastructure for that to happen. And then it's over to you guys.
Once the games are finished, it's a bit of an anticlimax really, because you go from being relieved that we've built what we've built and we've achieved that, we've achieved what we set out to achieve. You see the buzz of the games happen and you enjoy that, and you get to see some fantastic sport, and then it all stops and everything starts being taken down, and it's a bit like, I'm gonna do it all again.
I slept for 2 days. I think post-games versus pre-games and during the games is a completely different situation. We're all working towards an event. When we're installing and designing and everything else, you're struggling to manage the fact that we did all that, it's over, and we need to move on and dismantle and get on to the next one.
You feel quite honoured being involved in something like the Commonwealth Games, especially with one in Birmingham, being local.
The Commonwealth Games in the West Midlands, I think it was great. I think it's a great shot in the arm for Birmingham. It introduced Birmingham to a lot of the rest of the world, which they probably never heard of Birmingham in their lives.
It's a really friendly city. It's a real fun city. It's very down to earth. People, in my experience anyway, it's self-deprecating. And so to see this population taking enormous pride in their region and what was going on is really an interesting turnaround.
The general vibe in the city seemed to be incredibly well, and it was nice to think that the team that we'd all, as a family, we were part of that.
The city really came to life during games time. There was lots of people from all over the world, all visiting, seeing Birmingham at its best, seeing all the overlay venues, seeing the sport that was going on. It was a great 2-week period.
You can see what it's meant to the city, I think. You know, you can see how people have engaged in the Commonwealth Games, you can see how people have reacted to the sport. For me, that's testament to the city, the way that the city has marketed the games, the way that the public have interacted. I think it's meant a huge amount to the city, and the infrastructure that's going to be left from a legacy perspective is massive, and it's only going to improve the city.
It's really nice to have seen the city transformed entirely by the branding and the colour, and also to have had sun for the whole way through the games is extraordinary. So there'll be thousands of tourists flocking into Birmingham expecting to see a sunny summer every year, and it never will be again.
I think the project was a massive success. You only have to see that by watching it on the telly, by going to one of the events themselves. It was a fantastic thing to see.
I hope that our achievements in terms of physical delivery of overlay at the Games speaks for itself. I think you only need to look around at the venues that we've helped to create to see. And I think that is a very clear endorsement for future OCs as to what GL brings to the party.
We do this globally through every country, but we act locally. So it's a matter of delivering a project with the experience and knowledge we have and the people and skills we have, but using local teams and local businesses so that investment, that legacy, that long-term piece for the local region who have bid for the project and bid for the Games gets that benefit.
The beauty of it is really that when we depart at the end of the project, we're leaving behind trained people, greater experience, and a financial contribution to those economies.
We are very much an organiser, and we're very much a relationship builder with the industry. We've got a passion to make events successful, and now success of event can be managed in many ways. You know, commercially, audience attention, message getting across, and understanding there are lots of different measurables to an event, I think is something we do particularly well.
So we bring that wealth of experience and knowledge to anybody that wants to put on a large-scale event, really.
So we know we can do it. We know we have the track record. We know we have the people. I think beyond that, one of our key attributes is the collaborative approach. The working very closely with the OC or the host city.
Bringing people together is the GL motto, and I think the way that we did that was by providing venues that allow people to move around safely, to get to see as much sport as physically possible from the best viewpoint.
Set.
I think that's really cool.